Hey everyone, Jake here from CVP. Today we are taking a look at a camera that has cemented itself as an excellent choice for creatives wanting a dedicated video mirrorless camera on a limited budget, but that doesn't compromise too much on features and performance. This is the Sony FX30, and it was released all the way back in September 2022. And in today's video, we're going to take a look at why this camera is still so good for its relatively low price tag. Since the FX30 has come out, I've seen some fantastic looking work being published that's been shot with the FX30. The image it can capture really is great for its price. These excellent results show that you may not need a full frame camera to get good looking video. At the heart of the FX30 lives a 6K or 26 megapixel APS-C or Super 35 backlit CMOS sensor. Full frame does have its benefits, but Super 35 has been the standard for filmmaking for years now, and there is definitely still a place for it in 2025. Heck, one of the best cinema cameras on the market currently, the Arri Alexa 35, uses a Super 35 sensor. When it comes to dynamic range, Sony has stated that the FX30 should have around a stop less than the FX3, but it can still produce excellent looking images. When we compared the FX30 to the FX3 during our latitude tests, which are tests to see how far you can over and underexpose your footage, it was pretty close, but the FX3 did come out on top. But it's a more expensive full frame camera, so that's not too surprising. The FX30 also has a dual native ISO. Now, this means that you can switch between these two different base ISOs depending on your light levels and get improved low light performance. There are a few different modes that you can use this in. Personally though, I think flexible ISO is the best for most people as it switches between the bases as you hit the different base ISOs. The two base ISOs will change depending on what gamma you are in. Here's a quick list of the different base ISOs between the different gammas. Underexposed imagery from this camera can look a touch noisy, but as long as you use some of the fantastic exposure tools in the camera, such as zebras, you can try and avoid this by nailing your exposure in camera. The FX30 can record a range of frame rates, codecs and formats internally. You can shoot a few different XAVC options, including Intra, which is best for playback but results in larger file sizes, Long-op, which is more efficient but it's harder for computers to play back, and even H.265, which is great to use if you have one of Apple's modern M series Macs. A lot of these recording formats have the option to record in 4210-bit. This is the chroma subsampling and bit depth that is being recorded. It basically means that you get more color information versus 4208-bit, which is what the standard was for years with these types of cameras. This means you can get good colors in camera or post if you want to color grade the footage yourself. The camera can even output ProRes RAW to a compatible external recorder if you want to get the absolute most out of it. And hopefully later on this year, you'll have the ability to output Blackmagic RAW to a Blackmagic monitor recorder, and this will be really exciting to see. When it comes to the look of your footage, you can choose to shoot any of the built-in Sony color profiles, ingest your own LUTs, or shoot the standard S-Log3 sgamma3.cine log profile, which is now the standard across pretty much every Sony cinema camera. This means that there are now loads of LUTs available for this, including Sony's own scientific S709 LUTs, which are a good starting point. This paired with the camera's ability to shoot 10-bit color in some robust recording formats also means you can color grade your footage in something like Resolve and really manipulate how you want your image to look. You also have the ability to shoot in Cine EI mode. This is one of the many common things you can find on both the FX30 and then Sony's much higher end cinema cameras. This makes it great to learn on the FX30 and then transfer your knowledge to the higher end cameras as you move up the range. The FX30 can shoot 4K up to 120 and Full HD up to 240 frames per second. When in 4K 120, the camera does toggle quite a substantial crop of 1.6 times on top of the already cropped factor of the APS-C sensor, if you're comparing it to full frame that is. The higher frame rate footage still does look good as it's still using 4K's worth of the sensor, but it's not downsampling like the other 4K modes in the camera do. You can still capture this in 4210-bit, but the crop does increase the size of the noise compared to the 6K downsampled footage. Sony have improved the FX30 quite a bit since it was released. They have added the ability to record DCI 4K and 24p in camera alongside all of the existing excellent options. It also now has the option to de-squeeze when you are shooting with anamorphic lenses. Currently there are only options for 1.3 and 2 times lenses, and with the FX30 being Super 35, you have a good range of anamorphic lenses to choose from if you do want to shoot with anamorphic. One of the most overlooked things about cameras spoken about online nowadays is their actual usability. Really, I think it comes down to how they're physically designed and their menu system and how they both work together. Sony has had a bit of a bad reputation when it comes to their menu systems for a while now, but honestly, I think the menu on the FX30 now is pretty good. You can easily customize your own menu portion for your most used settings, and over time you'll get used to where things are in the deeper menu. And thankfully, most Sony cameras are kind of similar when it comes to navigation and terminology, so your experience will carry over onto their higher end systems. The FX30 has a bunch of functions built in now that make it an excellent camera to learn and refine shooting video on. This includes things like the ability to use shutter speed or angle, now thanks to the latest version 5 firmware, the ability to use Sony's monitor and control app, which can be really helpful if the camera is out of reach, and a huge range of other features and tools that you would expect from a video or entry-level cinema camera. I would say it's really important to set custom white balances in a bunch of scenes and productions, and the way that Sony has designed this system on the FX30 is really easy and great to use. It uses a small square which you can then easily move around your frame. This is far better than most other systems which often just use pickers that are too large, can't be moved, or take the entire frame into account. This way you can use a nice small white balance card like the Calibrite Passport Color Checker, which is far easier to carry around than a regular size card and much easier to light. This is a really small detail, but a really helpful one that Sony do very well on these cameras. The body design of the FX30 is very similar to the FX3. It's a very solid design for shooting video, with well-placed buttons and plenty of mounting threads for different accessories across the body. As the FX3 and 30 have been out for a while now, there are plenty of accessories out there for them. This means you can easily rig the camera up if you need to with the right accessories. The lightweight design and compact size make it really easy to use, and it's really versatile. You can easily rig it up for shoulder rig operation, more cine-orientated rigs, or keep it stripped back for handheld or even gimbal operation. The battery life of the FX30 is pretty good, but if you rent or buy one yourself, I would definitely recommend grabbing some extra batteries, as you can expect a couple of hours out of a single battery. These batteries are readily available, and if you want to run the camera for longer periods like a stream or an interview, you can easily plug it into a larger power source or a power outlet using a DC coupler or PD USB-C source. As the FX30 is video focused, this means it's far more reliable for shooting video than Sony's other hybrid Alpha series cameras. This is because the FX30 and FX3 feature an active cooling system which uses a fan to help dissipate heat. If you work in hotter conditions or environments, or just simply want the most reliable performance when recording long takes, this is great. When shooting by yourself or with smaller crews, a reliable autofocus system can be an absolute lifesaver, and the FX30's is excellent. Sony arguably has the best autofocus system on the market on their most modern cameras now, and learning this system on the FX30 will apply up into their larger cinema line and Alpha series cameras. Its focusing system is basically the same as the FX3, but with a few differences and improvements. It has 495 points covering 90% of the frame, and uses both phase and contrast points, and has human, animal and bird tracking in its video mode, which makes shooting a range of subjects really simple. You can really dial in how you want the system to behave, so if you want locked on fast autofocus or slower, more natural looking focus pulls, you can choose that in the menu. However, you can also still get a good manual focusing experience with the FX30. Newer E-mount lenses with Sony's XD linear motors will give you a good manual focus experience, and you have tools like a solid punch-in which you can do while recording and focus peaking. So if you do want to lock in your manual focus muscle memory with your favourite manual focus cine lenses, you'll be able to with this camera as well. Sony's E-mount has been on the market for a long time now, and that means that you have loads of first and third party options to choose from at a range of different prices. Because of the FX30's Super 35 or APS-C sensor, you can use both APS-C or full frame lenses with it. More often than not, these APS-C lenses are more affordable and smaller than their full frame counterparts, which is great for the user this camera is aimed at. If you want the most reliable autofocus performance with clean, sharp imagery, going native Sony is the way to go. However, there are also plenty of third-party options to choose from too, if you prefer using a certain brand over another or have a certain budget in mind. Another huge benefit of E-mount is how many other lenses you can adapt onto it. This is thanks to E-mount's shallow flange depth. Flange depth is the distance between the sensor and the camera's mounting flange, or mount. This means that you can adapt lenses with a larger flange distance, such as Canon's EF and PL, which is the standard for cinema. To do this, you just need to make sure you have the correct adapter. You could even adapt a range of vintage lenses onto it as well, which can help soften up your image or use a speed booster if you want to use a full frame lens and get image characteristics closer to those of a full frame camera. So you have the option to run lenses with fast autofocus and clean imagery for some productions, and then easily adapt a nice set of cine lenses with the right adapter when you want to, which really adds to the versatility of the FX30. Oh yeah, if you end up grabbing a powered zoom lens for the FX30 as well, you can use the rocker on the front to zoom, which can help you get some nice smooth zooms which aren't as easily possible with other camera systems. You can also enable clear image zoom here as well, which can be used on the rocker too. If you want to keep up with the latest and greatest kit, please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And if you want to buy anything you see in this video, or you want to get your hands on the FX30 or any other kit for that matter, head over to cvp.com, where our experienced team is waiting to help you. The FX30 features in-body sensor image stabilisation, and for newer filmmakers and videographers, it's incredibly helpful to have, especially if you are shooting handheld a lot. This system is able to achieve up to 5.5 stops of stabilisation, which really helps smooth out things when it gets a bit shaky. In the menu, Steady Shot is your regular IBIS, and Active Mode is Sony's one more designed for video, and aims to optimise the 5-axis optical image stabilisation system for handheld video shooting, but this does apply a 12.5% crop. You can take this a step further if you grab a lens with optical stabilisation as well, but these are actually quite hard to find in Sony's E-mount lens lineup. Thankfully, because the camera is small and light, you will also be able to use it on smaller gimbals like the RS4 Mini and RS4, as well as smaller tripods if you want to stabilise it even further. Capturing good quality audio is a crucial part of producing good videos, and the FX30 can help you do this. The FX30 can either come with or without this XLR top handle, which works out costing around £300 to £400 extra over the body only. This top handle unit integrates really nicely with the camera. It mounts via the threads on the top of the camera and the MI shoe, and adds 2 full-size XLR inputs and a 3.5mm mic input. The camera also has a scratch mic built in, as well as a 3.5mm mic input and headphone output on the side of the body itself, which could be very handy when you have the camera on a gimbal but still want an audio source going into the camera. You can also capture 4 channels of audio and monitor them all as well. The preamps in the body are okay, but if you want better audio, grabbing the handle or another external recorder will be best. You can also now jam timecode via the USB-C port with the correct adapter cable, which means that you can keep a channel of audio free if you do need to use timecode. Another cool audio accessory for the FX30 is the DJI Mic 2 camera adapter. This allows you to connect the DJI Mic 2 wireless receiver to the FX30 via the camera's MI shoe. This enables you to use these mics with the camera without the need for a cable going into the camera. This is a really slick, streamlined and affordable set of mics for the FX30, so definitely worth checking out if you're planning on doing any kind of talking heads or interviews with the camera. The FX30's retail price is roughly £1,899 body only, or £2,299 with the top XLR unit. And the FX3's original price is around £3,699, and that camera comes with the top XLR handle as standard. However, I've often seen these prices drop across the board, so check out our website for full up-to-date pricing. Anyway, is it worth saving the little bit extra to get the FX3 over the FX30? Well, it kind of depends, as you really need to factor in your lens choice as well, as on average full-frame lenses will cost more. In terms of feature differences, well, there's a few very subtle physical design changes between the two, but the biggest is their sensors. The FX3 sensor is now legendary in the image creating space for its incredible low light performance, solid dynamic range and excellent readout speed, and I think it is a step up for most filmmakers. However, the FX30 is downsampling more resolution into its 4K image, so it can look a bit more detailed and sharper. The FX30 also doesn't have a mechanical shutter, so if you decide to shoot some stills, just be wary that you may get some rolling shutter artifacts in some scenarios. But otherwise, the FX30 offers a lot that the FX3 can do, but at a slightly more affordable price point. We've made a comparison between the FX3, FX30 and A7 IV before, so if you want to see them compared in more detail, check it out via the link in the description below. Anyway, let us know what you think of the FX30, or if you have any further questions down in the comments below. And if you like the video, please give it a like, and maybe consider subscribing so you don't miss out on our awesome upcoming content. And thank you so much for watching.